All right, welcome back. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts. So we did the little preamble thing, the background. Now we're getting into what it's actually saying, what they want, what we're going to do, what they want to do in the Green New Deal. Starts off with resolved, part one. It's a sense of the House of Representatives. It is the duty of the federal government to create a Green New Deal. A, to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions through a fair and just transition for all communities and workers. Now that sounds good. To achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions through a fair and just transition for all communities and workers. Doesn't matter who you are, we're going to transition to net zero greenhouse emissions. Everyone's going to be involved. To create millions of good, high-wage jobs and ensure prosperity and economic security for all people of the United States. Isn't that the dream of every president that we try to get? To create millions of good, high-wage jobs and ensure prosperity and economic security for all people of the United States. That is a utopia. That's the United States I want to live in. To invest in the infrastructure and industry of the United States to sustainably meet the challenges of the 21st century. Invest in infrastructure and industry of the United States to sustainably meet the challenges of the 21st century. That's just kind of let's put a line in there because we need to take up more space. D, to secure for all people of the United States for generations to come clean air and water, climate and community resiliency, healthy food, access to nature, and a sustainable environment. Clean air and water. We have got some acts that were put into place since the 60s to do this exact thing. Climate and community resiliency. I guess that's so your community can bounce back from a bad climate year. Basically, I would think of the Gulf states. Be able to bounce back after a bad hurricane year like we had in 2020. Healthy food. Well, if healthy food didn't cost 10 times more than non-healthy food, we could scratch that one off and already have it. But since you can't afford healthy food, that dollar menu at McDonald's is a fourth the price of a salad from the grocery store. Access to nature. Now, this one bothers me. Because in order, I said I wasn't going to get political, so I'm not going to. Everyone right now has access to nature. I don't know. It says state for generations to come. Now, we got the Bureau of Land Management. We have federal parks. We have state parks. We have preserves, reservations, all of these things in order to do exactly that. So I'm not going to harp on it. Everyone has access to nature right now. And as long as we don't do something stupid and change the acts that we have in place, you always will have access to nature. A sustainable environment. I feel like, this is just my opinion, I feel like that might be kind of a dig at the timber industry for paper and such. I don't know, it says environment. That's all it says. And E, to promote justice and equity by stopping current preventing future and repairing historic oppression of indigenous people, communities of color, migrant communities, deindustrialized communities, depopulated rural communities, the poor, low-income workers, women, the elderly, the unhoused, people with disabilities, and youth, referred to in this resolution as frontline and vulnerable communities. So these are going to be referred to as frontline and vulnerable communities. Communities of color. Communities of color, migrant communities, deindustrialized communities, depopulated rural communities, the poor, low-income workers, women, the elderly, the unhoused, people with disabilities, and youth. You are now known as frontline and vulnerable communities. Depopulated rural communities. That people that live in the rural areas like depopulation. That's why they live in rural communities. The industrialized communities, I would imagine we're talking about areas like Detroit. Migrant communities. They're going to promote justice and equity by stopping current, preventing future, and repairing historic oppression of indigenous people, communities of color, and migrant communities. I don't really know how you do that, but we'll get into it. The goals described in subparagraph A through E of paragraph 1 referred to in this resolution as the Green New Deal goals should be accomplished through a 10-year national mobilization referred to in this resolution as the Green New Deal mobilization that will require the following goals and projects. I'm going to stop it right there. Come back.